unless there's some particular part. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
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 Vijana Baba Kirivadana
Vijana Vallabha Giridhari.
Gopijana Ballabha Girivardhana
Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Giridhari.
Sodhananjana Rajajana Yasodhananda Rajajana Tera Vanachale Tera Vanachale Jaya Rambu Kunda Vihari. Jaya Rambu Madhuva Kunda Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya all Sutella Satashi Shima His Divine Grace Savaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavanam Ki Jai. Maturadam Ki Jai. Jagannathaswami Ki Jai. Yamunamari Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nivashesha Shanivadi Paschatya Dejatani. Okay, so today we are going to read from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, text 25, chapter 25, text 20. Oh, wow, opulence. Thank you. So, those of you who have a phone with it on it, you can follow along.
It's 3:25.
3:25:20. Yep. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vasudevaya. Okay, so we'll try to do this responsively. First, each word. Prasangam, ajaram, pasham, atmana, kavayo, vidu, sa, eva, sadhushu, krito, moksha, dvaram, apavritam, prasangam ajaram bhasham, atmana kavayo vidu, saeva sadhushu krito, moksha dvaram apavritam, prasangam ajaram bhasham, atmana kavayo vidu, saeva sadhushu krito, moksha dvaram apavritam, prasangam ajaram bhasham, atmana kavayo vidu, saeva sadhushu krito, moksha dvaram apavritam. Anyone want to try it?
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidhu sa eva sadhu shukruto mokshadvaram apavratam
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanah kavayo vidu sa eva sadhushu krito mokshadvaram apavritam
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo viduhu sa eva sadhushu kruto mokshadvaram apavritam
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmanah kavayo vidu sa eva sadhushu krito mokshadvaram apavritam
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu sa eva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram apavritam
Prasangam ajaram pasam atmana kavayo vidhu sa eva sadhu sukrito mokshadvaram apavratam
Prasangam ajaram pasham atmana kavayo vidu sa eva sadhu shukrito mokshadvaram apavritam
Okay. Prasangam, attachment. Ajaram, strong. Pasham, entanglement. Atmana, of the soul. Kavaya, learned men. Vidu, no. Sa eva, that same. Sadhushu, to the devotees. Krita, applied. Mokshadvaram, the door of liberation. Apavritam, opened. Translation: every learned man knows very well that attachment for the material is the greatest entanglement of the spirit soul. But that same attachment, when applied to the self-realized devotees, opens the door of liberation. So, purport: by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Chittamani Jai. Here it is clearly stated that attachment for one thing is the cause of bondage in the conditioned life. And the same attachment, when applied to something else, opens the door of liberation. Attachment cannot be killed. It has simply to be transferred. Attachment for material things is called material consciousness, and attachment for Krishna or his devotee is called Krishna consciousness. Consciousness, therefore, is the platform of attachment. It is clearly stated here that when we simply purify the consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, we attain liberation. Despite the statement that one should give up attachment, desirelessness is not possible for a living entity. A living entity by constitution has the propensity to be attached to something. If we see that if someone has no object of attachment, if he has no children, then he transfers his attachment to cats and dogs. This indicates, it's true, this indicates, especially if the children aren't nice and the wife isn't nice, then he has to get a dog. So this indicates that the propensity for attachment cannot be stopped. It must be utilized for the best purpose. Our attachment for material things perpetuates our conditional state, but the same attachment, when transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotee, is the source of liberation. Here it is recommended that attachment should be transferred to the self-realized devotees, the sadhus. And who is a sadhu? A sadhu is not just an ordinary man with a saffron robe or a long beard. A sadhu is described in Bhagavad Gita as one who is unflinchingly engaged in devotional service. Even though one is found not to be following the strict rules and regulations of devotional service, if one simply has unflinching faith in Krishna, the Supreme Person, he is understood to be a sadhu. Sadhur eva samanto yal. Bhagavad Gita 9:30. A sadhu is a strict follower of devotional service. It is recommended here that if one at all wants to realize Brahman or spiritual perfection, his attachment should be transferred to the sadhu or devotee. Lord Chaitanya also confirmed this. Lava mantra sadhu sangha sarasati hoy. Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 22:54. Simply by a moment's association with a sadhu, one can attain perfection. Mahatmais is a symptom of sadhu. Mahatma is a symptom, sorry. It's actually conjunction. It's a mistake here. As a symptom of sadhu, it is said that service to a Mahatma or elevated devotee of the Lord is Dwaram Ahur Vimukte, the royal road of liberation. Mahat Sevama Dwaram Ahur Vimuktes, Tamal Dwaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangha. Rendering service to the materialist has the opposite effect. If anyone offers service to a gross materialist or a person engaged only in sense enjoyment, then by association with such a person the door to hell is open. The same principle is confirmed here. Attachment to a devotee is attachment to the service of the Lord, because if one associates with a sadhu, the result will be that the sadhu will teach him how to become a devotee, a worshiper, and a sincere servitor of the Lord. These are the gifts of a sadhu. If we want to associate with a sadhu, we cannot expect him to give us instructions on how to improve our material condition. But he will give us instructions on how to cut the knot of the contamination of material attraction and how to elevate ourselves in devotional service. That is the result of associating with a sadhu. Kapila Muni first of all instructs that the path of liberation begins with such association. And again, and then again the verse, I'll just do the Sanskrit. Prasangam nasram bhashanam atmana kaviyo vidu Seva sadhushu krito moksha dwaram apavratam. So Omagana Tilavanda Shadagana Shana Shalakaya Chachur Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Namaha. So this particular verse is spoken in the context of Lord Kapiladev's conversations with his mother Devahuti. And as most of you know, that just previous to this, Lord Kapiladev's father, Kardama Muni, just took sannyas. So let's go back a little bit in this particular story. That Devahuti and Kardama Muni, they had a very interesting relationship. In that Devahuti was so dedicated to Kardama Muni, she renounced her opulence because she was actually a king's daughter, princess. So in order to serve Kardama Muni, she actually endured so much austerity and she looked wretched after a while. But Kardama Muni understood this, and he understood that actually it was his duty to give her some children. So he took her in a aerial mansion, which was flying through the sky, and had all sorts of like hairdressers and everything. People would decorate her, and she became extremely beautiful again. And so then they enjoyed their life together, and as a result of that, there were 9 girls born. And that was very interesting, and these 9 girls were later given to the 9 sages, different sages. So anyway, so these girls, it was understood by Devahuti that these girls would leave home. Obviously, that's the Vedic system. When the girl gets married, she joins the husband's family, and no more does she remember her own or her previous family. And actually, we see sometimes that when the girl's too attached to the previous family, it causes disturbances in the marriage. It's called mother-in-law. It happens. I've seen that many cases. So anyway, so these girls are supposed to get married and go away, and Devahuti is pretty upset because her husband's ready to go away too. Because the deal was, as soon as she had kids, he would fly the coop, as they say, or leave home. And so, she's going to be all alone. And not only all alone, that he had promised her something which is very interesting. He promised her fearlessness. And the only way you're going to become free from fear, abhaya sattva samshuddhi jnana yoga vipastiti, is having transcendental knowledge and transcendental realization. Just like Srila Prabhupada, abhaya charananda vidya, one who's taken shelter at the Lord's lotus feet becomes fearless, because then what's there to fear? You know, what is the greatest fear? You know, death. So if one understands the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, there's no problem with death. It's just going somewhere else. Like, you know, I get in an airplane and go from one place to another. And so devotees, when they actually get ready to leave this world, don't go through the various stages that they teach you about in hospice training. Anyone who's had hospice training knows you have various stages you go through.
Yeah.
When you leave this body. First is denial, and then anger. It's not going to happen to me. I'm going to fight it. And depression, and finally, someone who is trained psychologist has to bring them to the stage of acceptance. Okay, you're going to die, but oh my God, what's going to happen? I don't know. And then the fear comes back again. Oh my God. And then who are those creatures coming at me now?
Oh my God.
The avadutas. We recently had this interesting play on Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, and it was a play of Jagai and Madai. And there was Yamaraj as part of the play. If one knows the Chaitanya Bhagavad, one knows the story. And one of the devotees, he was dressed up as Yamaraj, and it was frightening. I have to show you the pictures of that. He was actually from Fiji.
Neki.
No. He was Indian body. His name is Keshwan. I don't know. Keshwan. You know him? Yeah, really big. Really big. And he had these horns on. He made his own costume with it. And, oh my God. I almost fainted. So there's different stages for most people who are going through the passing away from this world. And so, but devotees, what I've seen with these great devotees, they don't go through those stages. It's just like, okay, Hare Krishna. Prabhupada didn't go through those stages. Prabhupada was translating his books until to the very end. So that's the advantage of it. So, freedom of fear. We have so many things to fear in this world. Actually, you read the news. What happens if there's an atomic war? What happens if, so many ifs, isn't it? If this happens, and like if there's forest fires here, then I can't go to Government. Right? So, what happens if I lose my job? I have a mortgage, so many payments. What if I can't make the payments? I'll be homeless. Oh my God. So much fear we have. So she asks to become free from fear. And so what happens? She says to her husband, Kardama, that you haven't given me freedom from fear. And basically that means she has to have a son who's going to instruct her about Krishna consciousness. So anyway, so they perform more austerities and chants and whatever. And as a result, Lord Kapila was born. And Kardama Muni takes sannyas immediately afterwards. I don't recommend that for you ladies. Because your son is not Lord Kapila Dev. He may be something else that we can't mention. But he's not Lord Kapila Dev. So, and so she goes to Lord Kapila Dev and she says, we talked a little bit about this last night. Nirvana Nitaram Bhuvan Nasad Indriya Tarsana. I'm sick of the disturbances caused by the senses, because the disturbances caused by these senses are caused by attachment. Because if you're not attached to the senses, then there's no disturbance. It's just like, you watch a movie, it's happening somewhere else. If I just see, let's say I read the news yesterday about this bridge that was destroyed. You understand? In America. A ship hit the bridge, a container ship hit the bridge. It was interesting. I didn't get disturbed, because I don't live there. I don't use that bridge. So, whatever, so interesting. Isn't it? Does anyone here get disturbed by that? No. Unless you have things on the boat that you were shipping. It was coming to Australia. I don't know where the boat was going. So because without attachment, there's no disturbance. So here the topic is attachment. So to not be disturbed, not be fearful, or not feel disturbed, or by the senses, asat indriya tarshana. Tarshana means like disturbances. Asat, temporary disturbances of the senses. Then one has to be detached. And we find in Buddhism, there's the Four Noble Truths. One is the material world is suffering, and we agree 100%. And suffering is caused by attachment, we agree 100%. Give up the attachment, give up the suffering, we agree 100%. And then the fourth one is by following the Eightfold Path, right living, right thinking. But they don't really describe what right thinking, right living, and everything is. It's just basically, for them, it's like being in the mode of goodness and being nice to everybody. And originally not eating any meat, which of course they do now, they eat meat now. So how do we give up that attachment? Because you can talk about it all you want. It's like sometimes the impersonalists, they try to think of nothing. And just like, I used to try to do that before I joined the Hare Krishna movement. So when you're thinking of nothing, then but you're still thinking of something. Even nothing is something. In other words, wow, I've reached nirvana, I'm thinking of nothing. No. It's just like, I'm so happy that I'm humble. I'm proud that I'm humble. Isn't it?
Yes.
Let me tell you how humble I am. I'm more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, ready to offer all respects to others. So it's called a catch-22. I don't know if you know that expression. That you just can't get out of it. So attachment, as mentioned in this verse, attachment is there. You can't get out of it. You try to get rid of your attachment. All right. Let's say you have an attachment for eating opulent food. It's not if. You do have an attachment for eating opulent food. And I tell you, you think of the thing that's the food you're most attached to. And you tell them, you're not allowed to eat that. I'm your guru. You cannot eat that again for the rest of your life. Maybe I need another guru. Because I can't do that, guru. And I've seen that many times before, especially with the tongue, Vacho Vegam Manasakrodavim, Jiwa Vegam. The people can't give up those attachments no matter how much you instruct them. Or someone may be attached. I've seen in the temple sometimes someone's attached to sleeping late in the morning. And you just tell them you got to get up. I mean, I had recent experience in one of the temples where the brahmachari, or so-called, wasn't getting up in the morning. So I would go before Mangalarti, open the ashram door and scream as loud as I can, you gotta get up, you gotta get up, get up! Still didn't get up. And then after 2 or 3 days, he had locked the ashram door. And I'm in charge, I'm the boss. So I couldn't get it, so then I started pounding on the windows. Still didn't work. So, it's my experience dealing with people. So, you gotta have a higher taste, and also you gotta have attachment for a higher attachment. And there's an interesting story of Sripad Ramanujacharya, and he had one disciple named Dhanurdas. And Dhanurdas, before he became Dhanurdas, servant of Ramanujacharya, he was very attached to his girlfriend. In fact, he was so attached to his girlfriend, his idea of Rath Yatra was his girlfriend should be fanned and have an umbrella over her. That was his concept, Just like we danced before Lord Jagannath, he was doing the same thing for Priya, Oh, sorry. No, Priya means deer. It's a generic term. It's not a specific term. So he was doing the same thing for her. And the brahmacharis saw that, and they thought they would get him to give up the attachment by making fun of him. Sometimes we think like that. You make fun of someone. You're too attached. You're a rascal. All sorts of negative stuff we give people and think, he's going to change. And so they were ready, they were laughing at him and everything, but he was so attached, he didn't care. And so what happened is that Ramanujacharya told his disciples, don't make fun of him, I want to talk to this guy. So they brought the guy over, and he said, Hare Krishna, what? I can see you do this with your girlfriend. Why are you doing that? And he said, Damodar said, because her eyes are beautiful, they're lotus eyes. Lotus eyes. And he didn't say, like most of Hare Krishnas, they would say, don't you understand? It's bio-mucus in air. Tridaduke. You understand Tridaduke means the ingredients of the body, bio-mucus in air. I remember the early days of taking sannyas, we would do classes like that. And tell people, beauty is just skin deep. If you take your dearly beloved wife and you peel off her skin, will she be attractive anymore? Or you take your cat and shave him up. Are you going to want to pet your cat anymore? So it's just, but it didn't do anything, didn't accomplish anything. So instead of just grossing him out, Ramanujacharya said, I'm going to take you to see someone with more beautiful eyes. And so he was thinking, oh my God, there's a girl with more beautiful eyes. Okay, let's go. Ramanujacharya said, okay, tonight, let's make a date. And so he takes him and goes to see the deity, Lord Vishnu, and he sees the eyes of the Lord. I mean, sometimes, of course, this wasn't Tirupati that it happened at, but sometimes in Tirupati, the eyes are covered. Venkateshwara? Venkateshwara.
Yes.
Balaji. And there's two reasons why they say the eyes are covered. One reason is because he doesn't want to see rascals like you. Another reason is because he's so beautiful that when people see his eyes, they'll just be transfixed. And they won't want to leave. So the deity's eyes are like that. I mean, if you actually appreciate the beautiful eyes of the deity. And, even Rupa Goswami says if you would all desire to enjoy society, friendship, love, go to see Krishna, who was playing his flute on the banks of the Keshi Ghat. So that's the point. So as soon as he saw the deity, he just went, wow, I surrender. And then one of the first things that Ramanujacharya told him to do was get married. And he and his wife became so renounced that even the brahmacharis and sannyasis were embarrassed. I mean, there's a story about that. Because here was this married disciple of Sripad Ramanujacharya. And the brahmacharis and the sannyasis were really disturbed. Yes, Ramanujacharya, our guru, is spending so much time with these attached people, attached wealthy people. Something's wrong. We're better. We don't spend time with them. And so what happened is that Ramanujacharya made an experiment to prove to them that they were more attached, because while they were sleeping at night, he switched their clothes. They would sleep in one room or something like that. And he switched the clothes from one person to another, so they woke up and they couldn't find their clothes. And they started to fight with each other. Sannyasis. Who stole my Nanda? Who stole my commando? Whatever who stole my mobile phone? I don't think they had mobile phones at that time. But anyway, so they were fighting. And then Ramanujacharya said, I'm going to teach you who was actually attached. And so he had his brahmacharis, or sannyasis, go to Damodar house while Damodar was talking to Ramanujacharya, and they stole the jewels from Damodar's wife as she was resting. Somehow or other, they were able to take them off, and they ran away because she turned over. And so they ran back, and they said, we stole the jewels. And then Ramanujacharya said, just look in the window when Damodar gets back home and see what sort of interactions he's going to have with his wife. So he gets back home, sees his wife with jewelry on half her body, and he says, Priya, no, sorry. It says dear, so it speaks English. So anyway, he says, what happened to your jewelry? And she describes the brahmacharis took half and she turned over so they could take the other half. And then he chastises his wife for not giving them all the jewelry. And so, most people are very attached to jewelry. I mean, we all know that you all love gold, right? And you all keep the gold. You keep the gold hidden under the drawers in your cabinets so that nobody will find out where they are. Nobody will know this actually under the drawer. Am I right?
Yes.
Except for the robbers. They go into some Indian house and they know exactly where the drawer is.
That's just nice.
I mean, if someone was take your jewels, you would just be, oh my God, your whole life would be ended, and I don't know what you'd do without the jewelry. So anyway, he was detached, she was detached, because they actually had a higher understanding, a higher attraction. And so what to speak of the secret, which is mentioned in this verse, by Lord Kapila, being attached to the sadhu. And we mentioned this a little bit last night. That attachment to the sadhu doesn't mean like some rock and roll star. Like groupie. You know what a groupie is? A groupie is like these, well, it was during the 60s more, that you had these people who would follow the famous, especially the Beatles. The Beatles and other groups. And they would scream and scream and stupid people. It's like that. Not considering the moral standard of the people that they were following. So anyway, so that's not really what it means to be attached to sadhu. To be attached to sadhu means attached to pleasing, just like we have this verse. Anyami lashta shunyam gyana karma navratama nukuyena krishnanu shilana bhakti. To be attached to Krishna means being attached to giving him happiness, to seeing him please. That's really what attachment means. And to please someone means you have to find out what pleases them. Like if you were to give me something that you like to eat, it may not please me. And so you should give me something I like to eat, like boiled vegetables. Gorilla? I like gorilla too. You do too. So anyway, so that's really, so what this comes down to is that we should develop attachment for His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, and also for the servants of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. And think it every minute. This is attachment. What can I do to please Srila Prabhupada and the servants of Prabhupada? And I want to avoid things that displease them, both things. So this is the same thing as the first surrendering principles of devotional service. Accepting everything favorable, rejecting everything unfavorable. The 6 principles of Sharanagati. So it's very important to try to understand the Divine Grace of Prabhupada, to understand what pleases him, and also to understand what displeases him. And to mold our lives according to that particular standard. And not, in addition, do it with devotion. Not just like, I gotta do it because it pleases him. Even though I don't like this, I'm going to do it anyway. No. You do it because... So you have to rephrase it in your mind. Like something like getting up early in the morning, chanting your rounds, serving the Vaishnavas. You have to change the mindset from have to choose to, because I want to please. That's the whole trick in devotional service. And that's really what's guided me in my own devotional service. Why I can get up early, chant my rounds every day, and do whatever service. That's called the intelligence platform. You know, we have two things. There's the mental platform and the intelligence platform. Also, there's the spiritual platform when one is completely in the spontaneous level, which I don't think most of you are. Maybe one of you. Maybe Jai Radhika. But most of us, you know, we have to function on the basis of Buddhi Yoga, on the intelligence platform. And that means thinking, accepting what pleases, accepting what's favorable, same thing. Things equal to the same thing or equal to each other. And this is what attachment means. You know, someone says, let's say there's a husband and wife, and the husband says, I'm very, very attached to you, I'm very, very attached to you. And the wife says, can you get me something? And the husband says, no. I mean, it's just like the story, you know the story of Tulsi Das? Yeah. I've told that story before. Tulsi Das, he was, before he got into the Ramayana, he was very attached to his wife. I mean, so his wife's family gave him this cloth store. And he was trying to sell cloth, but every time someone said, this is a nice piece of cloth, I'd like to buy it, he said, it's not for sale. Because he wanted to give it to his wife.
Yeah.
So he would bring home, but he wouldn't bring any money to his wife. She really wanted money, not just like a whole pile of saris that was, 10 meters high. Wasn't used to that. And so, but he had his own idea of what she wanted. And then, of course, she was really nasty to him. And he developed sort of an attitude towards women after that point. And then he left home. And there's a whole story like that. So in other words, there's not a story about Tulsi Das that I'm telling. But actually, he wasn't interested in pleasing her. So we find this in all sorts of relationships that we have, that our attachment is not to the actual other person, it's actually to ourselves. Because we're seeing the other person as an object rather than a subject. Do you understand the difference? Just like, I have so many objects, like my little or big Kindle and my computer, and I don't care how it feels. It really doesn't matter to me as long as it works. So many people have these relationships with each other. They don't care how their husband or wife feels, just as long as they work and cook for them. Or as long as the man brings home the moolah. The nectar. Just like the story of Valmiki, when he went to his wife and says, can you share some of my karma?
Yeah.
She says, hell no. And his children too, so he understood what the material attachment is actually exploitation. That you really have to understand. You're using someone for your own enjoyment.
Yeah.
So one has to be careful not to use Prabhupada, not to use Guru for their own enjoyment. Sometimes I call it a pet Guru. As a pet is mine. Because it enables me to do what I want to do. So one has to be careful like that. So, real attachment means attachment to pleasing the person and love. That's real love. So that's really what's being described here. So, any questions or comments? Yes.
I don't have a question as such, but I was actually thinking on this pastime. In these verses, it talks about attachment to devotees and non-devotees, right? And the results. So, Devati, when was serving Kadava Muni,
Yeah.
Kadava Muni saw her as emancipated, weak, thin, made it
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like that, right? And then when she started serving son Lord Kapila Dev, then she was seen as more blissful and happier. So I was actually thinking about that.
But she was happy. Wait a second. She was happy
She was
serving
happy serving
Kardama Muni.
husband, right?
But she was
stays-
became thin.
Yeah.
That's
But
all.
it's like, I
But
was
she
thinking-
wasn't like
No.
miserable. Why do I gotta serve the
the
jerk?
mood
You know,
wasn't
she
like
wasn't
that.
thinking like that.
No, but what I was thinking, because Kadava Muni being a mystic yogi
Yeah.
and not pure devotional person, he wasn't a pure devotee.
We became a pure.
He became like that.
Yeah, he became after
Yeah,
taking sannyas.
that's right. Yes, and Kapila then being part incarnation of Supreme Personality of God.
Yeah, but Kardama was a devotee. He wasn't just like a karmi. He was a great, exalted devotee. But at the same time, that's why he was able to have Lord Kapila Deva.
That's right.
I mean,
That's right.
Krishna doesn't really appear as, I don't know any stories where he appears from a demon. So what's the question?
It wasn't a question.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
just thinking about that. Yeah, in the past, I was just remembering.
I have
She
a
became blissful, and then Lord Kapila Deva eventually left too.
Yeah,
But he gave her instructions so she was able to cope with it.
yeah. Higher knowledge.
Yes, Gurudev. I just have got young devotees here, so I just have a quick question on the importance of balancing the material life and spiritual life together, and not indulging that the thinking how to balance it basically.
Well, obviously not being fanatic about spiritual life. It's a new devotee syndrome. That one becomes fanatic about spiritual life and neglects their ordinary dealings. So there's several different factors to consider in this regard. One is that Krishna is pleased when we act properly in this world too. I mean, that's an important factor. And then we are representing Krishna. If we act in a way that is dysfunctional in this world, it will cause people to criticize Krishna consciousness. I mean, I did that in the beginning with my parents, unfortunately. I was pretty dysfunctional. When you're 20 years old, you're dysfunctional anyway. And you don't really grow up until you're 35 or 40. Because you really don't have a balance. So anyway, so I came to the movement, and then every time I dealt with my mother, it was like, well, of course, Mataji is fine with, because she's my mother, but I wouldn't look at her face, look at her feet all the time. Mataji, Mataji. And every time I went to see her, I would take a brahmachari to protect me. This is my technique. So, just all this fanaticism. So, and then it caused people to criticize, especially my family members. It took them some time to really accept what I was doing was good. In fact, at one point, my mother wanted to hire a deprogrammer. Because her poor son had become crazy. So we don't want to be crazy, or be seen as crazy. Another reason is that we have to recognize we have material needs as well as spiritual needs. And in order to, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita talks about this, in order to progress in Krishna consciousness in a slow and steady way instead of a fanatic, radical way, which doesn't work, then we have to recognize our needs and not think that they're Maya. Prabhupada said, and I think I mentioned this, the first priority for devotees is their health. Then after that, your sadhana. So you won't be able to continue if you're just fanatic, and you'll be miserable. We're supposed to be blissful, not miserable. So if you eat too little, And Krishna himself says Krishna consciousness is not for those who eat too much, or eat too little, or sleep too much, or sleep too little. If you sleep too little, you get sick. If you sleep too much, you get sick. You eat too much, you get sick. And you eat too little, you get sick. So these are different reasons. Mityahara viharasya. In other words, moderate. Okay?
Yes, Gurudev, just one more question. These all the devotees, young ones, they are all chanting. So only chanting.
That's nice devotees chanting.
Yes, very, very nice devotees. They're chanting very good number of rounds. You know,
What's good?
10, 10, 12, 45.
Yeah, any number of rounds.
Yeah. So, and then you want to make it to 16. So if you can enlighten to share some, tips maybe to make it to 16.
Don't think of the number.
Yes.
Think of your goals in life. And also think of pleasing Krishna and Krishna's representatives. And that way it becomes easier. Like what keeps me going is pleasing Prabhupada and serving Prabhupada. And it's just, that's my life and soul. Sometimes if you try to approach Krishna directly, Krishna is so far up there, he doesn't need me. He so far, removed, but Prabhupada, the devotees, they're actually right here on Earth planet. And so we can relate better. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we just think, I just want to please my Guru, I want to please Krishna, I want to please Prabhupada. We do it out of a sense of bhakti. Don't do anything out of a sense of have to. Do things out of a sense I choose to, I want to, and I want to please whatever. Then everything becomes a loving exchange. That's the difference between bhakti yoga and karma yoga. Right there in a nutshell. Then everything becomes these 16 rounds is easy. I mean, sometimes, and I gotta see when I have time, I do 64 or more rounds. It's easy. So I just think you don't want to please Krishna and like the holy names. If you force yourself, it doesn't work. Okay?
One last question.
One last question. Okay.
Thank you, Gurudev, for the answer. And there was a reference of one moment's association with the pure devotee.
Yeah, Sadhu Sangha, Sadhu Sangha, Sarvadashrakota.
So the Katwandamuni and all the
Love
things which we hear. But in today's world, even though we take the shelter or be the association, but again we need to go back to the material duties. And
That's
things
right.
like that. So how to maintain that?
We see our material duties as assisting our devotional service. Also meeting our basic needs, whether it's eating or sleeping or bathing. These are all material duties. But we see them as connected to because we wouldn't be able to do our spiritual activities without that. You have basic needs. We talked about this many times before. You have needs, of course, for the basic needs: food, water, light. You have needs for friendship. You have needs for understanding. You have needs for making your own decisions in life. These are all basic human needs. And if you don't fulfill those needs, you'll never go on to the higher need, which is Krishna consciousness. It's important. I mean, if you're very hungry, how are you going to concentrate on your chanting? If you're in pain, of course in pain it may help you concentrate on chanting. I experienced that when I had kidney stones. It was kind of nice. No.
It can't be nice.
Well, it wasn't bad. Because all I could do is Krishna, Krishna. I couldn't even say the whole mantra.
Yeah.
It was
Just
Krishna.
taking out of me.
Krishna, 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 Krishna. Best chanting I ever did. Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I gave up eating and sleeping.
You just drink.
What's that?
You just drink.
I was drinking, yeah, I had to drink too.
Yeah.
But it was an intensive experience, but I thank Krishna that he gave it. I didn't thank Krishna then. I wasn't saying thank you, Krishna. But I thank Krishna that he gave me that experience. So, because it taught me so many things about this world. It was really, every experience that we have teaches us something about this world. Okay? So maybe we should end because we have to do our deity worship, there's prashadam, and you all have to go to work.
Yeah.
Do your real service. Serve the company.
Get the nectar.
serve your boss, unless you happen to be your own boss. Which helps. Okay. All glories to His divine grace. Srila Prabhupada.